Hi there, I'm Bryland, and I've been writing books and telling stories for as long as I can remember. My parents have a collection of comics and short stories I wrote when I was just a kid, and I have a core memory of spending a weekend at my Meemaw's dial up computer writing what was essentially a knockoff version of The Hobbit, with me as the main character. Sorry, Bilbo, you've been replaced. I got my degree in creative writing back in 2016, and since then I've written 2 books, both of which you can find on my website. I've also been a dungeon master for over 8 years, building my own world and the stories that go into it constantly. In my opinion, stories are one of the most important tools to understanding ourselves and others, and there's nothing more satisfying than a story that elicits some raw, powerful emotion, one that you feel compelled to share and to enjoy again and again. If you couldn't tell, it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. With that background out of the way, I can say with some confidence that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to writing and the craft of storytelling. In these videos, I'm going to give my take and advice on how you can improve your writing and how to most effectively practice. I'll share some tools that have been vital to me, as well as parts of my process and much, much more. I hope for these pieces of advice to be evergreen, and I promise that they're not just for writers, but will be effective tools for world builders and dungeon masters as well. Now, I do have to make a general asterisk for each of these videos. Every person who wants to write, whether it's for fun, for class, or for a career, they have their own process. I can only share tips that I know work for me or for somebody else, and I cannot guarantee that they'll work for you. Some people plan their books down to the smallest detail, sometimes outlining for years before beginning their first chapter. As great as that sounds, I can't work that way, and I prefer to discover the story as I write it. Neither of these methods is better than the other, they simply appeal to different minds. What I'm saying is, all of my advice is meant to be a suggestion of something to try, and I cannot promise it'll work for you. When you find something that helps your process, stick with it. If just one of my videos helps just one person, then it's worth it to me. With that being said, the advice I have for this first video is, I believe, fairly widely accepted. It's the key to telling your mind, hey, it's time to write now, and that is consistency. While of course being able to write at a consistent time for a consistent duration every day would be ideal, that doesn't work for everybody's schedules. I know it doesn't work for mine. But there are other ways to trick your mind. Let me tell you what works for me. First is finding a location that works for you and always writing in the same spot. Let your mind associate a place with the act of creation, discovery, and dedication to getting words on a page. The less you do in that space outside of writing, the better. Science says that if you want better sleep, you should do nothing else in your bed. No scrolling, no reading, nothing. Only get into bed with the intention of being asleep. If you can accomplish this, your mind will make the connection of, I'm here in this place, this is my job now. Take this same principle and apply it to where you write. And trust me, I get it. Being able to have a space that you can dedicate to just one thing is a luxury. Nobody has a desk where they answer emails, another where they do their online shopping, and a third where they write. But find a space that's available to you and make it your writing home. Fill it with trinkets and decor that match the aesthetic of your current project, and whatever time you find to write, do it there. When I was first writing on the subject of witches, I put all of my Halloween decorations up in a closet under a stairway. You know, with the slanted ceiling. I had a tiny little desk that I hunched over while sitting in an incredibly uncomfortable chair. There was a low, flickering Edison bulb lamp, the hum of a space heater. Every day that I stepped into that closet and closed the door behind me, I was transported into the cottage of the Bloodwillow Coven. I wrote that first draft in a stupidly short amount of time, and I credit that in no small part to the space that I had made for myself and dedicated to writing. If you can accomplish a similar corner for your own craft, I hope it's as effective for you as it was for me. If there is a place that inspires you or has some connection to your current work in progress, but is not somewhere that you can get to as regularly as you'd write, my suggestion would be this. Go there as often as you can for brainstorming, not writing. Bring a notebook with you, let your mind enter its creative, meandering space as you stroll, and let that area be your place of ideas, of exploration, of planning. But let your writing space be somewhere that you can get to more often. As I write the sequel to Witches on the subject of spirits, there's a beautiful cemetery that I love to go take walks in. I bring my notebook and my headphones, and I think about Mal and Eden and Ursula, but I save the writing for when I get home. Speaking of headphones, that brings me to my second practice of consistency, and that is a playlist. If you haven't already, go put one together right after you've finished this video. This playlist should be filled with tracks that connect you mentally and emotionally to your current work. Ideally, it's made of music that you won't listen to or hear elsewhere, something you'll only interact with while writing. It also shouldn't be music that you cannot disconnect from anything else. For example, even if I were writing a heroic epic set amongst the stars and multiple strange worlds with a magic system granting incredible powers, I still wouldn't add this to the playlist. Because I wouldn't be able to disconnect that. I'd be trying to write my own story, and I'd be thinking of another. I'd also recommend staying away from songs with lyrics for a similar reason. You don't want to be trying to write your own words and listening to someone else's. So, to recap, make a playlist with the vibe that matches your current project. Make sure it's not anything that you already have a separate mental connection to, ideally instrumental tracks that you hopefully won't hear anywhere else. Now that you've got that, listen to only that playlist while you write. Go ahead and put it on a few minutes before you start to begin that connection in your mind, but listen to it throughout your writing session. This is you telling your mind, this is what it sounds like when we write. I do this with every project that I have, past, present, and future, and it works wonders for me. And I have a lot of fun putting the playlist together. Last practice of consistency that I'd recommend, have a journal with you at all times. And while you could be a hipster writer, walking around with a leather-bound notebook and the finest inkwell pen, the Notes app on your phone works just as well, if not better. Since you always have it with you, it's easier to carry, and you've been conditioned to be addicted to it for the last decade or more. Now, just having your phone with you at all times doesn't just count for this one, doesn't check that box. What I mean is this. Make a practice of jotting down ideas you have throughout the day. Try to get one entry in every day for a week. After that, twice a day, then more. Do you see what you're doing here? You're not building a practice of writing something down. You're telling your mind that you can be actively thinking about your work, constantly creating at any time of day, no matter where you are. Those are 3 tips in consistency, but there are so many other ways that you can employ this tactic. Maybe you always chew the same flavor of gum when you write. Perhaps you always warm up your mind with a logic puzzle before sitting down to continue that murder mystery page-turner you're writing. Maybe you always begin your writing session with the same cup of tea. Whatever your writing practices are, consistency is your friend, and there are plenty of ways to trick your mind into finding that creative space. If you have a suggestion that I didn't mention, say so in the comments. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. If you like this video, go ahead, hit that button, and subscribe to the channel. But the best way to support Center Ring Productions is to buy any of my books or other content on the website. Every sale makes a difference to me, and I hope it makes a difference to you too. Thanks again for watching. Now go write!